There is a turtle that comes from Asia, so endangered and very tiny, but its personality is massive, and it also has the eyes of an owl. Today, we're going to be setting up an enclosure for two of them. Let's get started. So the species of turtle that we're going to be building an enclosure for is the Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle, Geoemyda spengleri. If you guys watch us, especially on our other short-form platforms like Facebook and Instagram, for example, then you may have come to know a little turtle by the name Lakai. Lakai means leaf in Vietnamese. He is our Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle. Lakai is still a juvenile at only about, say, 3 inches in length. He was captive produced here in the United States by a friend, and he's really become popular on social media overall. Maybe not quite Otis, but he certainly has won over the hearts of many with his incredible antics, adorable personality, and those unbelievable eyes. So are those eyes normal? Why, yes, that is a common trait of spengleri, as we call them in the hobby, or spengleri, however way you want to say it. This species is fully grown at only about 4 to 4.5 inches, so they are one of the planet's smallest turtle species. They spend much of their time on land, but they are not a tortoise, and they're more similar to, say, a North American wood turtle or box turtle, just much smaller. Spengleri need cool environments. They do not like excessive heat. These animals really prefer temperatures in the 70s, and we can provide that easily here in our home. So our good friends over at Toad Ranch have designed a custom enclosure to accommodate Lakai. However, it is a dual enclosure, meaning there's a bottom enclosure and there's a top. Why? Because we've got an unbelievable treat for you guys. Our friend Anthony Pierlioni is on his way here now to deliver a second little spengleri to us. That's right, a second little Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle that's gonna live in this dual exhibit, but not side by side with Lakai, because it's better to raise these animals singly. Hopefully one is male and the other is female, and we can one day breed them, but we gotta get this thing up and built and into place. We're not sure exactly where we're gonna put it, but we're putting it right here in our living room, and then we're gonna decorate it and get the turtles in. Okay, that's our 12-inch pedestal stand, and that's going to support the 2 enclosures that are going to stack on top of it. So let's get started with those. How cool is this? One of my favorite things about working with Toad Ranch, which is the company that made this custom enclosure, is the destination backdrops that they put into them. You can customize this to your liking. There's so many different backdrops that they can download and come up with and print onto the back of this. But furthermore, they actually are panoramic. So you see as I put these enclosures together that the backdrop is not just on the back, but it carries over to the sides, which really kind of encompasses a nice little slice of nature that you could put right in your living room like we're doing right now. So we're gonna build the bottom enclosure first, and then we're gonna build the top one, and you're gonna see this whole backdrop come to life, because believe it or not, it's actually continuous from top to bottom. So we've been doing builds with Toad Ranch for a while now. In fact, we have an entire playlist where you guys can go back on this very YouTube channel and look at all the different epic builds we've done with them. So let's get the faceplate on this, and you guys are gonna get to really see what these things look like. A A lot of thought goes into these enclosures as far as the specifications go, and for each species, different specifications need to be met. So it's not just about what goes on inside it. This backdrop is suitable for an Asian forest dwelling species like the Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle, which is what we are building these for, but detail and attention and specifications go to the outside as well. And when you order one of these enclosures, you can actually pick the color that you want it to be. We wanted something that was closely matched to our floor in here because, hey, this is our home. We want it to look extra nice, right? Not just for the animal, but also for us. And this is a telltale example of how you can do it in your home without it becoming an eyesore. And I promise you, once this thing is done and you're looking into it, if you weren't already a reptile or amphibian person, you wouldn't really know what you're looking into. You might just think it's some kind of really cool terrarium with plants growing in it, something to showcase, when in fact, there will be living, breathing turtles in it. The advances in reptile keeping are unbelievable at this point, and Arcadia really makes incredible lighting products. And I love when Toad Ranch sends them to us to use in these enclosures because it really helps illuminate the whole thing and bring the whole thing to light. Now, we are dealing with a shade-dwelling species, so we're going to be putting one of each type of light in each of these enclosures. We're going to be using the Arcadia Shade Dweller, and we're going to be using the Arcadia Jungle Dawn. So, for most of the time, for your daylight cycle, because the animals do need a day and night cycle, you could be just using the Shade Dweller. But then you could, let's say when you're having company over, turn both lights on to really illuminate the enclosure. But what you're actually doing is changing up the environment a bit for the animal, because that's exactly what would happen in nature. If a tree falls, the canopy opens. If an animal eats something, a large animal, the canopy can open. There can always be changes, and it is good to somewhat change the environment up for the animal without actually moving them around, because when you unnecessarily move them, that can invite in stress. But just kind of changing up the days on them, that's exactly what could be going on in nature. So I'm going to install 2 in the top of this enclosure, and then when we finish the second enclosure, I'll install 2 in the top of that one. Okay, before we get started decorating this thing to actually house the turtles, Anthony just got here with our brand new Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle. Is that like Shania Twain? I don't know, you got me thinking now.
I love Shania Twain. So do the girls. Okay.
I'm thinking about that the whole video now.
Who starts? You? I react to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna start. I mean, it's a different shirt, but you know.
We have to get that iguana poop stain out of your jeans.
Yeah, but at least it's just a stain and not actually there anymore.
Yeah. Stop sitting up straight.
Oh.
Because when you sit up straight, your head gets cut off. Don't slouch too much.
Oh, it's awesome.
Just be regular.
Thank you,
Loon.
Spielberg.
Just be normal. Do less.
Moment of truth. This is my good friend Anthony Pierlioni. He is the vice president of the Turtle Room, and he is also the man behind the show of Just Turtles, a brand new YouTube channel that you guys should check out, which we are going to put links for down in the description of this video. But why are you here?
Well, I'm here because I love you, but I'm also here because I brought you a present. Isn't that exciting?
Yes, can I see it?
Okay, are you excited? You are?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm excited.
So this is not holding any food for us because this would not hold a meal for you or I. We both like to eat.
No.
This is holding something much cooler than an awesome meal.
If that was a meal, I'd be upset.
Right. We'll handle that later. The meal, not the upsetness. Okay. These are great. I picked up these little containers on Amazon. They just stay really close. Yeah. Okay. So here we go.
Oh, it's ickle.
I know. Can you believe that? Should I hand it to you? Should I just let it sit on my thumb? I'm not sure.
Shaking a little bit. Wow.
Isn't that cool?
So you guys are looking at a hatchling Geomyda spangleri, Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle. And again, this is one of the planet's smallest turtle species, but talk about small, that's like barely any bigger than a quarter.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, how old is this one?
So this one is about 3 months old right now. Like I said, it's a little on the smaller side. It hatched towards the end of the season, and it's been kind of cool. And now this is a species that likes cold temperatures. Cool temperatures. Mm-hmm. It's been a little less active and hungry and all of that, so it's not growing like crazy like it will when springtime comes.
Right, but you know, that's also kind of important because we're always trying to show people on this channel, and even when we've written things, you know, you don't rush the growth of any turtle or tortoise, right?
Yeah, I absolutely believe in keeping things as natural as possible, and especially after that first year of growth, like they need to cool down. Even when they're young though, seasonality is really important. You don't want them to get as cold as the adults do yet, although they could probably handle it.
God, I'm literally shaking a little bit because this is such a tiny, fragile turtle. But what's also interesting about it is, as small and fragile as this animal may seem, it's certainly bulletproof compared to a wild caught animal. Correct?
Absolutely.
This is a USA captive born and bred Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle that he produced, just like Lakai, our larger one that you guys have come to know over the last few years, produced by another friend. But these are animals that are shedding light and hope for the future for these species that are still being smuggled in, correct?
Absolutely. It's become a real issue. I have to think about this, and I think the best thing that we can do is really question everything that we do so that we can always be our best. And what I mean by that is, when we look at the work that I've done with this species, I've written a book about this species. I've hatched a lot of them, probably close to 100 by now, a lot of these over the years. And they're a very popular species that, you can keep like a gecko, but they're really a small leaf turtle with these comical eyes and this amazing personality. So they become more popular because of the writing and all the social media posts about them and everything. So I don't know if the dozens of hatchlings that I produced over the years have actually helped to improve the situation for the species, because they're so heavily sought after that they are still being poached and brought into the U.S. Among other places in the world illegally after being poached.
So that's a really interesting point, because one of the things that we preach, and a lot of different people that are playing both that role in conservation and preservation, is you want to see more of these animals being produced in the responsible aspect of the private sector and zoos and whatnot, because this is what you want to see. You don't want those wild-caught animals. Not only is it illegal, but it decimates populations. It creates major disease factors. In veterinary science and medicine, we are just barely scratching the surface in what these animals naturally carry by nature. Or when these, poachers and exporters collect so many of them, throw them in one bin, and they're defecating all over each other and then ship to another country. There's all kinds of messes that are occurring there. However, when you're dealing with a species that is so coveted, something that grows to be about 4.5 inches, those beautiful owl-like googly eyes, bold personalities, and just ease of care, people still want to take the easy way out, find a place where they are naturally occurring, and potentially decimate the entire population. Nonetheless, this is such a beautiful, monumental sign of hope for a species that lays one egg at a time, correct?
Yeah, well, between 1 and 2 normally, more 1 egg clutches than anything else, although 2 egg clutches are common. Very rarely you'll see a 3 egg clutch, and only twice in recorded history have there been 4 egg clutches, and both of those were in my basement, actually.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so we wrote a paper on that for Radiata Journal.
Those are some really interesting points that you brought up, and what's cool is, not only is Anthony hatching these animals fairly consistently, or in numbers over the years, but you're also breaking records with them, which is kind of cool, with the 4 egg clutches. These are key factors, gems, little treasures that are found within, again, the responsible aspect of the private sector, where things are being done with these animals and we're learning things that not necessarily would be able to be learned in the wild. Okay, so if you were researching these animals in the wild, how often are you going to come across their egg clutches to begin with, and enough of them to really understand what's going on? So again, when the right things are being done with these animals, in any species whatsoever, there are secrets to be unlocked, things to be figured out, and we can learn so much about an animal's biology, ecology, reproductive nature, and everything in between when you're doing things right. I'm beyond excited about this little animal. This is I knew it was going to be a baby, but there's just something so cool when they're that tiny.
It's the best. And what's funny too is I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing a hatchling because it's larger than a hatchling, which is funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hatch out as small as 4 grams, which is not the smallest turtle ever. But this is a gift from myself and Steve Enders, my partner at the Turtle Room and a longtime friend of ours.
Yeah.
We wanted you to have it because we know, the amazing things that you're doing with rare species, and we want to just continue to educate and share kind of the good happenings that are coming out of the private sector, to use your words, and just to help everybody learn to love these important species that they should know better than perhaps they do.
Yeah, I mean, I can't thank you guys enough. This is amazing. It's super uplifting. It really, really is. And again, it's just a product of your dedication, your knowledge, and your love and passion for these animals. A lot of good can be done for these animals. We as humans have destroyed them, but we as humans are the ones that can bring them back. It's our duty to do so. And that is just, look at how he's starting to come out. Thanks, man. It is just, thank you.
My pleasure. You kidding me?
So cool. Okay, that was so awesome. Not only to get the new turtle, but to see Anthony. We've gotten to do a lot of things this year. We did terrapin work together. We went to Arizona together. And now we have filmed together, and he has given us a brand new little Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle. But here's the task at hand. We've got to set up this dual enclosure for both Lakai and our brand new Spengleri. All right, so we're talking about a very small turtle, again, that is fully grown at between 4 and 4.5 inches. Typically, it's also a cryptic species that prefers lower lighting. Right now, we have both lights in each of these enclosures turned on so we can see what we're doing and also give you guys a nice, beautiful, in-depth look at what we're doing in here. It all starts with the substrate, and we prefer to use substrates that are made up of carbon, peat moss, sand, and soil. That's all safe stuff that becomes bioactive once you put all the other elements that are required to make a bioactive setup. And we also like to add in some cypress mulch. This stuff all breaks down over time, really creates a nice earthy mix that's very natural for the turtles. Again, they occur in forests, and the backdrop is taken from their native lands. These animals actually have been found in areas that are almost totally dark, and then they will seek out some spotty sunlight on the forest floor. They also look for a lot of nooks and crannies, and that's what we're going to create as we go on here. Once the substrate is in, next up is going to be those awesome pieces of driftwood, cork bark, or branches that we want to put into place, because we recess them into the substrate a bit, which is exactly what would be going on in a forest, as those things fall off trees and then get dug into the ground and sediment and everything builds up around them. And we place these strategically to create nooks and crannies that the animals can hide in. So I'm not going to do any designated huts or hides. I want this to be really natural, and want the turtles to find areas to hide in and around, or even on top of these logs if they choose to bask. Once those logs and driftwood pieces are in place and you can see just how awesome they are, next up is the plants. And in these enclosures, we're going to use all live plants. Sometimes we do fake, sometimes we do live, sometimes we do a combination of both. But in this case, we really want to create an awesome subtropical to tropical looking forest here by using live plants. Got a nice little variety here. Something as simple as pothos always goes great for this species, as well as ivies. They are omnivores, but they are heavily carnivorous. They will really only sometimes accept some fruit, so we don't have to worry about these animals eating any of these plants. This is not like creating a habitat for a tortoise where you have to be extra careful about the plants you use because they could eat them, and if they're toxic, you're going to have a problem. We situate them with the taller ones in the back, shorter ones in the middle towards the front to create that depth, and then to also kind of create what would be going on in a forest like this, with substrate, logs, and driftwood, and then those live plants all situated in the way we want to see them so that it looks great for both turtle and viewer. Now we can put in the water dish. We're only going to put a water dish in the top enclosure for Lakai right now, because Lakai is at the juvenile stage nearing subadult. We are not going to do one for the baby that's going on the bottom enclosure, because right now that animal is actually going to be kept in the container it's in, and we're going to put that container inside the enclosure. It can slowly acclimate over time, and because it is so tiny, based on Anthony's expert advice, it's better to raise that animal to a more substantial size while it's in that container before releasing it into this enclosure, because we're never going to find it. Let's face it, that thing is so tiny. So this way, keep tabs on it, it'll do great. Once it's of size, we will put a water dish in there, no problem. Once those water dishes are in place, then we add some live moss. This is one of my favorite aspects of decorating enclosures. And if you've seen the builds that we've done over the last few years, we go heavy with moss because it just looks amazing, and it is a mainstay in any forest floor that has a lot of humidity and moisture. The turtles love it, it's soft, it looks awesome, and you can get really, really creative with it. Now that the moss is in place, next up is gonna be leaf litter. I love to use these little oak leaves. They're awesome, they're natural, they offer hiding areas for the turtles. It's a really nice natural added element to a forest floor. I can't say that enough times. And look at the color of these leaves. It perfectly matches the colors of the Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle's shell. That's how it got its name. It has a black breast on the plastron, and it has the color of a leaf, and it is made to look like a dead leaf, so it blends in with the forest floor. Got to make these animals feel comfortable and at home, and this leaf litter is such a crucial element to these builds. With all of that in place, we're gonna mist this entire thing to start building the humidity in here and moisture, and of course to water the plants. And once the turtles go in, they're gonna really appreciate that buildup of humidity because they prefer humidity and moisture, and they are also more active in it. But that is not all. Next up is going to be the cleanup crew, which is the second to last element to this build. And these little isopods and also springtails are gonna break down all the waste, clean it up, and create a bioactive enclosure so that you don't ever have to interrupt it. Aside from changing the water dishes and turning things over here and there a little bit, this is now your little slice of nature, heavenly nature, that you don't have to do anything for. But now, let's put in the final piece to the puzzle. It's turtle time. Okay, the moment of truth. Now, Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtles are an elusive species by nature. Just because you guys may see Lakai going nuts in some of the videos we posted on our other platforms does not mean that's going to happen here. And in fact, now that we've moved him, he's probably going to completely shut down. And of course, this brand new little baby is very freaked out. But the object is to just get them in here, start getting them acclimated, and eventually they will know every single nook and cranny inside these brand new enclosures. So let's start with the baby. And like I said, we are going to keep this baby in its container. It's got all appropriate humidity in there. You can see that it's hiding all the way in that moss. Let's do one last quick check of it though. Make sure that it is okay. There it is. Ooh, it's actually out a little bit. Oh, look at that little baby. Isn't that thing adorable? Wow. Gorgeous. All right, you stay comfortable in there. And I'm gonna place it right here so it's not in direct light. It's got some cover. And I'm gonna keep tabs on it. I've started feeding it in there. You can see some pellets right in the back there. And as it grows, it becomes a little bit more personable. We will allow it to start exploring its entire enclosure. All right, he's already shutting down a bit. But look at how much bigger he is already. He's about 4 times the size of that little hatchling. And he's not done growing yet, but he's getting close. There you go, buddy. Put him in the water. Awesome, we are all done. These enclosures have fully been built. They're gonna mature over time, which will be awesome to see as the plants climb and intertwine with things in the enclosure. The turtles, gonna take some time to get used to this, which is fine, it's normal, but I'm excited to see how they start exploring and learning all the nooks and crannies. And hey, Anthony texted me. He has come up with a name for this brand new little baby, Mei Li, which means beauty in Chinese. And I think that is perfect for this little gem. Guys, if you want to shop anything at Toad Ranch and get your own enclosure, make sure you use our brand new affiliate code, which is going to be LACAY5. That's LACAY 5. And that's going to be for a limited time only. Anything at Toad Ranch, use that code so you can get a discount. Jared, Denny, Lynn, and everybody over at Toad Ranch, once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is truly incredible, and it is proof that when you choose the right enclosure and enclosure company, it can look like an amazing masterpiece right in your own living room.